Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. You are live with Endeavor Gaming, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Synth Pilot Destroyer, putting on a phaser beam overload and seeing what this thing can do. So let's just go on ahead and get into it. Are back in Star Trek. Here we are back in Star Trek Online, and we have a new toy to play with. I was able to pick up the Deimos Pilot Destroyer a little bit earlier today, so we're going to take a look at this thing. Just to get started, I've gone ahead and thrown on my sort of standard beam overload build. You've seen bits and pieces of this in other build videos, such as the Inquiry and the Kirk class. If you want to see those, check out the little ping above, and you should be able to go there. But let's do a quick down look at this and why we're running some of this stuff. So, for our four weapons, we've got the Enhanced Biomolecular Photon Torpedo, the Phaser Wide-Angle Dual Heavy Beam Bank, the Terran Task Force Dual Heavy Cannons, the Terran Task Force Beam Array, and a Sensor-Linked Dual Beam Bank. For our deflector, we're using a Colony Deflector, which gives us a nice mix of control expertise, a little bit of hull cap, and stealth just to feed into that intel team that we're using on this ship. We'll get into that a little bit later. Impulse engines, not too surprising. We went with the competitive engines. And then for our warp and shields, we're using the Disco 2-piece. In the rear right now, we're using the heavy biomolecular phaser turret, as well as the sensor link turret. And for our experimental weapon slot, we've got the Soliton wave impeller. While I do like the Gatling emitter with beam overload, in a lot of situations, things aren't staying alive long enough to really get the best use out of that. So, Soliton wave impeller it is. For our universal console, we've got Lorca's custom fire controls. For engineering, we have weaponized helical torsion, neural infusion circuits, tachyokinetic converter, the ultimate modified swarm processor. For our science consoles, we have the dynamic power redistributor module, also known as DPRM, as well as the interphasic rift generator. This is a new one in a lot of my builds. I'm using this one for its crit severity. I didn't have the mirror worship until fairly recently, so I've been making the most of it. Rounding out for our tactical consoles, we have the immolating phaser lance, 2 exploiters, and 2 locators. Now, these can be switched around depending on how much crit severity versus crit chance I want, but I've got it tuned in pretty well to where I want it at 47.5 for the crit chance and 257.8 for the crit severity. Going forward, our traits are basically the same as they were on the Kirk and the Inquiry, so we're not going to go too far in depth into any of those. You guys should check out those videos if you want to learn more about why I'm running these in particular. Again, the big one, as always, is going to be the Boimler effect. This trait has changed so many builds, it's not even funny. It's one of the reasons why we're only running half Oxtabat and aren't even going full Oxtabat. It's just not necessary. Moving forward to our starship traits, we've got Terran Goodbye, of course, now that I've gotten the Mirror Warship. Superweapon Ingenuity, we have the Best Diplomat, Critical Systems, Exitus Acta Probat, a trait that, there are better traits to use, but this one's pretty solid, and I'm running Intel Team, so might as well, especially since the only hull heal I have is Engineering Team. And Universal Designs to really make use of that immolating phaser lance going off, trying to get as much crits from that as we can. For Space Reputation, again, it's pretty bog standard. Tyler's Duality, Landry's Loyalty, Magnified Firepower, Precision, Advanced Targeting Systems. Going ahead and looking at our off-seating, this one I've kind of been changing around as I see fit. Right now, we've got Beam Overload, we've got Attack Pattern Omega here. What I've been thinking about potentially is taking this high yield off, making this a high yield one, and then throwing OSS on here instead. Because frankly, I'm a huge fan of OSS, and I think I might get a little bit more out of that, so we're going to try that. Of course, first off, let's reset all that and actually apply the loadout that we need. Would be just a little bit helpful. Throw on our torpedo high yield, and throw on our override subsystem safeties. So we've got both of those working on here now. Boom and boom. Should be good now. As far as DOFs, this is something that I plan on updating in a future video. Right now, I don't really have many of the pilot DOFs, so I'm just running with things that can work. Obviously, your mileage on these will vary, and I would highly recommend going and picking up, say, ones like 15 of 47 if you can, that work off of pilot. For now, I've just got a couple of bulwark bridge officers that'll max out my power levels on my standard abilities. I've got 1 crit chance on firing energy weapons. I have the shield pen officer that gives me a chance for 35% shield pen, and then I've got 2 technicians feeding into my single aux to bat. So that's what I've got basic setup wise. Like I said, it's not too far off from a lot of the other beam overload builds I've gotten on here. So let's just see what this ship can do. And let's see, as an aside, just to give some background, this ship is featured prominently in Star Trek Picard. These ships attack the Utopia Planitia shipyards in the beginning of Star Trek Picard during one of the flashbacks. I believe that was First Contact Day in 2385. So you can brag to all your friends that you know that. So first, let's take this thing into a wanted and see just where its damage output is at. And then we'll take it into something else to test its survivability. Let's go ahead and give the Benthans a hand, shall we? Let's hit it.
By the Benthan Guard. You are now my deputy. Looks like our fight got them to notice us. Let's go over and ask if their thaw might come out of hiding.
And there's the first patrol. The Deimos got through that absolutely no problem. So damage output wise, this ship is more than up to the task just using this phaser build I've put on it.
Thank you for your... We have the suspect.
I'm not gonna lie, one of the things I like most about this ship is it's pretty similar in setup to my Inquiry, and as you guys know, that is one of my favorite ships for beam overload and directed energy weapons. And this thing introduces pilot maneuvers, which I'm still getting used to. I do have pilot ships, I don't fly a whole lot of them, but being able to quickly navigate the battlefield is a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. And now we're going to get to really put that to the test. Because another big thing about pilot maneuvers is it gives you a short amount of immunity. And that's going to come in handy in this TFO. Because we're going to see if we can get through this without, you know, losing a couple of hull panels. Let's see what we can do here.
We can ponder the... We did it. Sensors are... Two of our ships... Klingon vessels are warping.
Thank you for coming to our... Truly the blessings of Luke.
Our systems are coming
Under the circuit.
if you feel...
That's one less rift to worry about. Let's regroup with the mark.
Bad news, I'm afraid. Klingons are approaching our position.
See that death there. I was trying to get off a pilot maneuver and just couldn't quite capitalize it in time. So one thing I think is going to be really important about the ship is I can't fly it quite like I fly the Inquiry. I can't just sit there and try to tank a couple of shots because the ship just does not quite have the survivability in its build to do that. It also definitely doesn't have the healing capacity for it. I do plan on eventually putting together a PvP build on this that should mitigate some of those problems, obviously at the cost of some of my damage, but it'll be interesting to see what I can do with this ship in the long run. I'd say things are going a little bit better now because I'm focusing a lot more on moving around and not just sitting in front of the enemy trying to tank shots. I'm also getting hit considerably less than I was before. So, let's see if we can get through the rest of this patrol now.
Let's deal with the threat.
And there's the patrol. We managed to get through that with only one death, which I'd say actually isn't that bad. Overall, I am very much enjoying this ship. Like I said, it feels like I'm trying to pilot it like my Inquiry because it's so similar to my Inquiry's setup. But this thing really shines in its maneuverability over my battle cruiser, and that's perfectly where this ship falls. To the point where I would say it has a higher damage potential than even that ship. Pilot introduces a lot of interesting things, and even though it doesn't have Miracle Worker seating, it's still a lot of fun. I'd say damage-wise, I'd rank it a solid 9 out of 10. You put the right build on this thing, it's going to do anything you need it to. Beam Overload, I can see getting away with a cannon build on this, going Scatter Volley probably. And as far as survivability, that's where things get tough. Assuming you didn't have pilot abilities, it would be really hard to give this a high score. I mean, this build is running with less than 100,000 hit points resting, but the pilot abilities introduce so many possibilities. And again, that immunity is going to save you in a lot of things, to the point where I'd have to give it a 7 out of 10 for survivability. Overall, this is a great ship out of the Infinity Lockbox, and is a great looking ship. Right now I'm running with the Type 8 hull material. It looks great. Throw on the Section 31 Vanity Shield. It still looks freaking incredible. And just for sanity's sake, I'll also throw on the Platinum Vanity Shield. While I wasn't as much of a fan of this look, it's still, pretty good. And if this is the sort of aesthetic you're going for, it's a pretty nice ship. That's about all we have here for now. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Like I said, if you want more information about some of the stuff I was using, I highly recommend you go and check out some of the other videos and stuff I posted, especially ones on the Inquiry class as well as the Kirk. So, I have to ask, what do all of you guys think of this ship? Do you fly the Synth Pilot Destroyer? Or is there another pilot ship that you prefer over this one? Let me know in the comments, and let me know what other ships you'd like to see me cover in the future, and we'll probably make videos out of them too. That's all I got, guys. I will be back with another video later this week, I hope, covering one of our favorite Starfleet vessels. I think you guys are going to like it. But we will see you then. As always, you have been live with Endeavor Gaming, and remember to keep calm and game on.